What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. And today I am joined by a very awesome horror guest, which is always fun for me. I have Tony Masiello on here with me. He's a filmmaker from sovhorror.com. Go check out the website. They have very cool movies. They have very cool gear that you can go check out, swag, the whole nine yards. I love it. I've checked out your website plenty of times because we're friends on Facebook, and I always pick apart. But I want to welcome you to the show, Tony. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And now you were such a big horror fan, following you and seeing your posts and things like that. Like, I learn a lot, and I thought I was a horror fan. But I'm learning more and more as I go on, especially with each passing guest. There are movies I'm just checking out for the first time I've never even heard of that are awesome. And you being a filmmaker, I love talking to different filmmakers and kind of getting their process and things like that too. Because a lot of independent filmmakers watch this, and I hope they take something away from it. So I want to start off from the beginning. How did you get started with your love of horror?
I think like a lot of kids, I kind of started off, I was very interested in things like dinosaurs and stuff like that. And as a kid, the Universal monster movies played a lot on local television, and this was before cable and all that. We watched UHF television with the rabbit ears on and stuff. And I just found myself attracted to horror pretty fast. And, we got our first VCR. I was pretty young when we got our first VCR. I think it was like 6 or 7. And once the VCR was discovered, it was like, wow, we can go rent movies. It was the 80s. It was the heyday of the video boom. And so, there's tons of local mom and pop stores that had all these movies. And as a kid, I was just so fascinated by them. And I would beg my mom to take me to different video stores and rent movies. And that kind of slowly started my obsession with horror films.
And that's it's funny that you mentioned that because you have so many VHS behind you, which leads me to my what SOV horror is, which is shot on video horror. And how did that start? Where did the concept start, and then how did you implement it?
So as far as the shot on video movies, when I was renting all these movies when I was a teenager, one video membership became 2, became 3, became 4. And next thing I know, I'm begging my mom to drive me around to every video store in San Diego looking to rent obscure and weird horror films. And, inadvertently, eventually you run across shot on video movies. And I think like a lot of people, the first time I saw a shot on video movie, I'll be honest, I don't recall which one was the first, but, I probably thought what a lot of people think, which is, oh, this is shot on a shitty video camera. Anyone can make a movie like this and whatnot. But as I started to see more of these types of movies, I became completely obsessed with them. I mean, it was, to me, it actually was very highly influential because you did kind of have that connotation that, hey, these were shot on a video camera, and hey, maybe I can get access to a video camera and make my own movies. So, very highly influential to me. And, eventually, I was in my early 20s, not really doing much with my life. I was kind of a musician playing in various punk rock bands and stuff like that. And my mom pretty much gave me that line, what are you going to do with your life? And so, I wasn't really sure, I thought about making movies in the past, but I felt it was more of a pipe dream. I felt, I grew up very poor, couldn't really afford to go to college or anything like that. And so I was just kind of like, I'm not really sure. And she's like, well, why don't you, I saw this commercial for this school and that you can make movies. Why don't you look into this? And so I did. And next thing I know, I started going to school to study video production and slowly, kind of learn the field, so to speak, and decided to start working in the entertainment industry, which is where I've been working ever since.
That's awesome. And where did you go to school, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I wouldn't recommend my school, but I went to a college called Platt College here in San Diego. I think they have them all over the place. What I would actually recommend if people are interested in getting into filmmaking, especially nowadays, it's a lot different than it was when I first started going to school. I mean, nowadays you have technology like is literally in your phone. You know what I mean? You can literally pick up your phone and make a movie and spend some time watching tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that, and learn how to do this completely on your own, independent of trying to get some degree. I mean, like a lot of people, when I first graduated school, I didn't find a career. I didn't find a job in the field for at least 5 years. I mean, and my education really sucked, honestly. My teachers were constantly impressed because, they would give us these really shitty assignments, and I'd always just go above and beyond because I was so passionate about making movies. And,
Yeah.
so, I mean, yeah, people ask me like, hey, should I go to college for this and stuff like that? I always say no. I mean, it gives you the piece of paper that some jobs want. Some jobs will want that bachelor's degree or something like that. But for me, I learned a lot more by just shooting and making stuff with my friends in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, agree. I went to film school as well, and afterwards, I just tell, like, you can gain the same networking and the same, all of that just by going onto a set and PAing and working
Right.
your way up, or doing your own thing. So I definitely agree. There's so much. I mean, YouTube, you can go to school now.
No,
You can learn everything on there. So I definitely agree with you in that sense. But now getting into directing, you as a director, I'd love to know your process. Like, so you were directing horror. What is it? You write it as well, correct? Or do you work with other scripts as well?
Yeah, so typically for pretty much all my projects, I usually come up with the main concept. I don't always write the scripts because I kind of abhor writing dialogue. It's never been my strong point. I've never been the best public speaker either. But so typically I'll outsource my story ideas to a writer. I've worked with several writers over the years. A few of them I've written myself, but for the most part, I outsource a lot of the dialogue to other people.
I love that, because you do not hear that a lot, especially from, there's a lot of filmmakers out there, and I don't know if you'll agree, uh, that I think their movies look amazing. They have cool concepts, but there's just something about the story. It's like you got to team up with a writer. And it's like just team up, and so it's good to hear, and I think that's great advice for any filmmakers out there. If it's not your strong suit, find somebody and collaborate. So I definitely I commend you on that. That's awesome. But
For
with
sure.
so SOV Horror, that's the main distribution for your movies, correct?
Yeah,
And
so yeah, sorry.
no. I was just going to say, so that so after you make them, are you making other filmmakers' films too, or is it a collaboration of different filmmakers, or is it just your own?
Yeah, so SOV Horror is a pretty much a distribution company that I run, and a majority of the product is not my product. It's product that I picked up to distribute. Pretty much the way the label came about was I was working on a documentary web series called SOV The True Independence, which was kind of my way of trying to pay it back to all the people that inspired me to get into filmmaking. Like I said, the shot on video movies were highly influential to me as a teenager and a young adult kind of growing up. And so I started working on this web series, and I was interviewing a ton of different directors and actors and people like that. And one of the guys I interviewed, director Jay Wolfel, gave me a box of old VHS tapes. I told him I was a big VHS fan, as you can see, and he's like, oh, I got some tapes here. You want some tapes? And he gave me this box of tapes. And on one of these tapes, it really grabbed my eyes because I noticed it was a dub tape, so it had multiple movies on it. And it had a movie called Dead Silence, which that's a movie by one of my favorite filmmakers, Hugh Gallagher. And this was a pretty rare thing back then. The movie had not seen a DVD release. The VHS was very scarce. It was one I was looking for years. So it's really excited about watching Dead Silence. But right before Dead Silence was this movie called Metal Noir. And I'd never seen Metal Noir. I'd never even heard of it, but the title sounded cool. I'm like, Metal Noir, this sounds cool. I'll check this out. And so, long story short, I watched this movie and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a shot-on-video movie. It's kind of like Hellraiser meets Trick or Treat. It's such a blast. And I was going to write a review for my website, sovhorror.com, where I had my web series and stuff. And come to find out while doing some research, this movie had never been released. And so I was able to get in contact with the director, David R. Williams, and kind of started talking to him and said, hey, would you maybe license this to me for a DVD release? I'd worked for a few companies doing DVD authoring and stuff like that. So I was very, familiar with that whole process. And David agreed, and that ended up being our first release, was Metal Noir. And pretty much from there, it would just kind of blew up. I mean, some people were hitting me up for, to distribute their product. Other ones, I sought out titles that I was really interested in getting released. And the cool thing about the label is I kind of have this general rule that I don't release anything unless I really like the movie. So, if a movie sucks, in my opinion, I'm not going to put it out. I try to have integrity. I try to also, we put a lot of time into special features and stuff like that. I want to make these, I try to aim to be the criterion of shot on video horror, to kind of really put out the nicest packages we can put out. We usually do new artwork and stuff like that. And, yeah, so Metal Noir was the beginning, and now, I just sent release number 24 to my replicator. So, and we just started a year ago. So
That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's a really cool story. And how many? You said you started searching out other movies. How many other movies have you found like this that were shot on video that never saw the light of day?
Yeah, so we have quite a few, actually. I'd say there's a good handful of titles so far that we've released that literally never saw anything. Another movie called The Spirit Gallery, which is probably one of the best, well-produced shot on video movies I've ever seen. It was actually made by John Strysik, who's known. He directed a lot of episodes of Tales from the Dark Side and Monsters, and wrote some scripts for Stuart Gordon, worked with Stuart Gordon closely. Oh, nice. And so we put out his movie, which was pretty much a lost movie. Put out this other lost vampire movie that a friend of mine made. So yeah, I try to focus on stuff that's kind of a little harder to find, rare titles, or just, even nowadays, a lot of this stuff has never been on DVD. It was on VHS, but it never made it to DVD. So, we're trying to find homes for those and get those movies out for people as well.
And so, how far do you have to dig for this, or do you, as it got to, you've been going for about a year now. Do you have more and more people maybe saying like, "Hey, listen, I found this movie. Check this out." And then, do you have to dig? I would assume you're like a private investigator at this point, trying to figure out everything, like who made it and all of this information.
It can be a lot of work. Yeah, it can be a few of the films we've worked on. Like, yeah, there's still ones I'm working on now. I have a giant list of movies I'm constantly seeking out, especially some of my favorites. And yeah, it is like playing private investigator, trying to track these people down and track down anyone involved with the production, so you can get a hold of the director or the producer, whoever owns the rights to the films. So it can be quite challenging. We do get a lot of people submit stuff as well. But typically, that's kind of like younger filmmakers that want us to put out their movies, and I really a few of those we have put out. So I'm all for supporting the indie underground, but I'm more interested in putting out kind of classic lost movies. Really,
what's the oldest movie you've put out? Like the oldest one that you were able to find?
The oldest movie, we just released it last month. The oldest one that we've put out is actually shot on film. It's a movie from 1988. Even though it was shot earlier than that, called Blood Orgy of the Leather Girls. And that had never received a DVD release. It had a very limited, small VHS run. And it's pretty big in cult circles, and we were extremely excited to get that title in the catalog.
Oh, that's awesome. And how did you go about I'm so enamored by this because it sounds so amazing. I love the idea of going out there and finding these hidden gems that were lost, and it's great that there's somebody out there almost sticking up for these little underground horror films. I love that. So for something like that, like Metal Noir, you found through trying to find Dead Silence, you had said. It's kind of open that floodgate, but something like some of the other movies, like, I don't even know how you would go about finding, like, again, yes, I'm sure some people come to you, like you said, but like, what kind of research do you start with? Maybe I guess I'll go there. Like, how do you jump into it?
Well, usually, I mean, like I said, I got to be a fan of the movie first. So I have to see the movie first and foremost before I usually seek some movies out. There's some movies that I haven't seen that I've just heard of and that I try to seek out, but we haven't really released many of those ones. Most of the ones I've found are ones that I've already seen. I mean, I've been a collector for years, and was very in the indie underground as well as the bootleg circuit in the '90s and stuff. So yeah, it can be difficult finding them, but sometimes they literally just fall in my lap. Like the Blood Orgy of the Leather Girls, that was an example of someone who was representing the producer actually contacted me. They saw what we were doing with the label. They thought it was really cool. And they were like, hey, we think you'd be the perfect home for our film. And so we were able to make a deal. But a lot of the times, yeah, it is me literally, like like I said, I got a very long list of movies I'd love to put out. And I'm just constantly, hitting people up and trying to follow up leads to try to find these movies. And finding them is one part of the problem. The other part is actually paying these people what they want to release them. We officially license all these, so unfortunately, there has been a few like I just didn't get because of the money situation. I couldn't offer them what they wanted. But for the most part, almost everything we've kind of sought out, we've actually gotten the rights to and have released.
Well, like, I liked how you kind of compared it to a criterion for the Lost Underground horror films. What kind of criteria do you have? Like, other than, I know you said that you have to like the film, but like, is there certain things filmmaking wise that they have to meet before you'll even consider it?
It's more just if I like the film, honestly. It's if I like the film or if I feel it's culturally significant. There's but the thing is like I'm pretty much a one man company. Like I pretty much do everything myself. I have a couple people who help me out. So I have an artist who does a lot of our cover art for us. I have a few people who help out with synopsises and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm a one man show. And when you're working on movies like this and doing these DVDs, I mean, I do all the making ofs. I cut together the mini documentaries. I do the trailers. I do the whole deal. So you end up watching these movies 150 times while working on it. So you really do have to like the movie and love the movie if you're going to invest that much of your own time into it. Because unfortunately, one thing about the shot on video movies is they're not very popular. I mean, we don't sell a ton of copies. I'm definitely not getting rich doing this. I've probably lost more money than I've made. But I do it because I love these movies and because I think these are important movies that I think people should see. I mean, nowadays anyone can make a movie with their phones and all that, but these people making these shot on a video as well as the indie kind of underground movies of the 80s and 90s. I mean, these guys were true pioneers. These guys laid the groundwork for what we see today with people being able to just pick up a camera and have that confidence to go out and make their own movie. So to me, it's really about preservation and saving these movies and sharing them with people. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan first. I'm a fan first. I always consider myself a fan first and a distributor second. So
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask, like, what is your favorite movie you've put out so far? Like, for you, a personal favorite that you really enjoy?
Really, Metal Noir is probably my favorite. I mean, you never forget your first, as they say. And one thing that was interesting with Metal Noir is so this version that I first watched on that VHS tape, it was like a dub of a dub of a dub. I mean, it looked terrible. It looked like there was so much rolling in it and stuff like that. Really bad audio, and what had happened is the filmmaker, he sent me the master, but the master was it was molded. It was ruined in a flood, and he didn't realize it. He didn't open it before he sent it to me, so he sends me the tape, and I open it up, and it's molded, and so we couldn't do a new transfer of it. And so, long story short, I had to play detective yet again, and I was able to find a work print of the movie that had no music or any of that in it. And I pretty much went through the long process of recutting the movie using that work print along with my version I had on that VHS tape and the soundtrack of the movie, which I was able to secure. So it took about 7 months to recut Metal Noir from scratch. I mean, it was pretty much recutting the movie from scratch. So I have a very like, I feel like I'm almost one with that movie, because it was so intimate. Because one thing that was really important to me when recutting the film was maintaining it pretty much shot for shot on how it was that original cut I saw. I wanted to maintain that original vision that the editor and director had at the time when they produced the film. And so literally like frame by frame, trying to make sure the frames matched perfectly. It was a ton of work. So that's definitely, Metal Noir to me will always probably be the most special one. But there's one other that's like really big for me too, and it's mainly just because I'm such a huge fan of this movie, and I just couldn't believe, that we were able to get it. At the time I thought it was kind of too big for us, and that's a movie called Mr. Ice Cream Man.
I saw that one. That looks interesting.
And
I
now
haven't seen the movie, but I am interested.
And what's interesting about that one is that's one of those movies. I know most horror fans know the Clint Howard movie, Ice Cream Man. And this movie was actually made before Ice Cream Man, Mr. Ice Cream Man was. And it kind of has a sordid history. There's some theories actually that it was ripped off a little bit for Ice Cream Man. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. But there's a whole story about that in the making of a documentary on the DVD. But long story short, I mean, it's just, I love that movie. I love that movie growing up. I used to rent it all the time. And it's just such a fun kind of horror movie. And we did a whole new transfer of that from the original Beta SP master tapes. And I did a remaster job from that. And it just looks absolutely amazing. It looks so beautiful. And as a fan, to be able to get this movie and kind of put it back out into the world for people to see, but not only do that, but put it out in a nice, high quality version. I mean, like I said, it looks better than it's ever looked ever. And so, I take a lot of pride in that. And, just a huge fan of the movie. So that would probably be like my very close second favorite release we have.
Oh, that's awesome. And so as a filmmaker too, and going into this, what are some of the things that you're working on going forward? Like I know you're a director, and what is it that I mean, I guess what do you have going on right now? I want to hear.
So I've recently just released my second feature film, which is called Natasha 90s. Actually, we did a short run. Wide release will come out in November, but called Natasha 90s Boudoir of Blood, which is a sequel to my first film, Zombarella's House of Horrors. And it's a horror anthology in the vein of USA Up All Night. I don't know if you remember that old show.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a big show for me when I was a kid. That was pretty much the TV show that got me into B movies and TNA comedies and stuff like that. And long story short, the way that kind of came about was, so I put out Metal Noir, and I'm like, well, now I have a DVD label. What am I going to do? And I had a bunch of short films that I directed, and they were in other movies. So, I contributed to a bunch of anthologies. I'd done short films and trailers for all these other projects of people. But I wanted to put together a bunch of my stuff for my cast and crew to enjoy. And so I came up with the idea of having this fake horror host show that would be like this pirate cable television show. So you could have, So you could have like blood and nudity and stuff like that.
Mm.
But then have all these commercial breaks. So you could have all these fake commercials, like 1-900 sex ads, psychic ads, all those commercials you would see on like USA Up All Night and stuff. And so that was kind of the concept for Zombarella. And so we made that movie. My buddy Tim Ritter, who's probably best known for making the Truth or Dare movies, as well as a Creep, Killing Spree, whole bunch of great movies, actually contributed to that first one. And originally it was going to be all my work, but unfortunately we were unable to license one of the shorts that I had done. That's actually a lesson, filmmakers. If you ever make something, keep your rights. Don't get rid of them. I really regret losing the rights to some of my work. But so I couldn't get the rights to one, so I asked Tim to help out, and Tim contributed and did a great job, gave us a great short, and he also did some commercials as well. And so the movie went over pretty well. People seem to like it a lot, and it was a mix of I recycled a bunch of old footage to make the trailers and commercials. I mean, a lot of that stuff was stuff I shot, in my early 20s when I was just really first starting to make stuff, and it was just repurposed for that movie. So we made a sequel recently, and we got a lot more people on board this time. This time I wanted to get other filmmakers and people involved. And so the new one, Natasha Knighty's Boudoir Blood, has shorts by myself, Jeff Kirkendall, who's best known probably for his work with the Polonia brothers, and pretty soon Return to Splatter Farm, and Ron Ford, big legendary SOV film director. I mean, Hollywood Mortuary, Tiki, Deadly Scavengers, V-World Matrix, a ton of movies. So they all contributed shorts, and then we had a bunch of filmmaker friends also contribute commercials, and I wrote some of them. Actually, I wrote most of them, and I edited all of them. And yeah, I mean, it was a blast. If people like, kind of miss those early days of the 90s and things like USA Up All Night and stuff like that, I think they'll really get a kick out of Natasha Knighty's Boudoir Blood.
Yeah.
And the joke, I have to mention the joke of it all. You probably notice, obviously, the titles are very different. You have Zombarella's House of Horrors and Natasha Knighty's Boudoir Blood. But the joke is that they're showing a movie within this, because it's a horror host show. So in the first movie, Zombarella, the movie is Tales from the Mausoleum Part 1. So the second movie, Natasha Knighty, the movie is Tales from the Mausoleum Part 2. And so we are going to be making a third one. And we do, the joke is we have a different host for each one. So the third one, I'll go ahead and give you guys the title. The third one's going to be called Spectre of the Space Babe. And we'll be back with Tales from the Mausoleum Part 3. So we're currently producing that now, and hopefully that will be available sometime mid next year.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh, caught up there. I love this idea, and I love horror hosting, and I know we've just not really discussed it on Facebook, kind of like we're both big fans. I can see it, and we go back and forth. So like, this is an awesome idea. And everybody, make sure you're going to check this out. It's on sovhorror.com. Like, all the stuff is up there. You can go see it, and it's available to you now. So it's absolutely worth it. And Tony, I mean, is there anything else besides the new movie you have coming on to promote? Do you have anything you just found, maybe some hidden gems that may be coming out soon, or are you working on?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, I literally have about 15 movies that I have not released yet that are, we're sprinkling out 2 movies. So we do 2 releases a month for the most part. Every so often we do a limited run release in there as well. But for the most part, we do two movies each month. So I have movies all the way till the middle of next year we're going to be releasing. So I got a lot of stuff coming out. I haven't, I don't like to give away the titles too early, but I'll go ahead and give you guys a scoop on one of them. This is one I'm extremely excited about. And this is a movie originally put out by Dead Alive Productions in the early 90s. They were one of those companies that specialized in shot on video movies, probably best known for being the company that brought Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles to the United States on VHS. And we just picked up a movie from them that we're working on. It's almost done, called Writer's Block, Truth or Dare Part 2, which is really funny because it is not really a sequel to Truth or Dare, which is the movie directed by my good friend Tim Ritter. And we'll have a great making of on this disc that we're working on right now. But that's a really big title. I'm really excited that we were able to get that one. It's only been released on VHS. The VHS is extremely hard to get. I mean, when you find it's over $100 typically. So we're really excited to be bringing that one out, and that should be out sometime early next year.
Oh, that's awesome. And thank you for the scoop. Congratulations. That sounds amazing. I can't wait to check it out. And yeah, so I mean, I love what you're doing. You're preserving history. You're preserving a history, especially for horror fans, which we're seeing such resurgence now. Like, what it was like back in the day for horror fans. We were always the weird ones. Yeah, you're always looked at like you're crazy and things like that. But now, like, it's out there. We can celebrate out in the open, ready to go. And I want to finish off with a question because I really am interested to know. It's Halloween season. It's the horror movie month, if you will. I mean, it's always for us, but for most people, it's horror movie month. what's your top five? What are you watching? What do you have to watch around Halloween season?
Oh gosh. Oh, okay. Let's see. Five is maybe tough. Every year, actually, what I like to do, me and my wife. My wife's actually, believe it or not, a huge horror fan, and
Like,
so I love to corrupt her and make her watch horror movies. And usually, every Halloween, we do a A to Z. So we'll pick A, B, C, D, and we'll watch all of them for the Halloween season. But there are a few staples we like to watch every year. And my favorite, absolute favorite, I always watch every year is a Hack-O-Lantern. Is a personal favorite of mine. I'm a big fan of Hack-O-Lantern. I usually watch that one. I usually watch a WNUF Halloween special from Chris LaMartina, which
yes, great one.
we put out a couple of his early, we put out his first two movies actually. And his first movie, Amerikill, I highly recommend. He made it when he was 14 years old. And this is the best movie you'll ever see made by a 14-year-old. It's so good. It's pretty much Scream made by a 14-year-old. And we got that at our website if you guys want to check that out. But I always watch WNUF Halloween special. I always watch Death-O-Lantern, which is another one we actually put out as well. What are the other ones? We do Halloween 3 every year. I love Halloween 3. It's my favorite of the franchise. I mean, I get people don't like it because it doesn't have Michael Myers, but to me, it's just it embodies Halloween to me. I just love that movie. What else are the normal ones we do? That's probably about it. I mean, as far as the kind of staples in my house, like I said, we do the A to Z, and so we've been doing those lately. We just got up to we watched F last night, so we watched Frankenstein Unbound. And today we got G, so we're gonna watch The Guardian. So
I love that. Is an amazing idea. I love that. Just A to Z and pick out a movie. That's fantastic. And anybody listening,
it gets tough for Q. Q is always hard. I obviously got Q the Winged Serpent or Quartermass Experiment, but there's not a lot of Q horror films. There's not a lot of Y horror films. That's another tough one. Like usually we'll just watch Yongari every year. X is another one. You don't have a lot. You got things like X-Ray and the X, the man with the X-ray eyes, but there's not a lot of X horror films. So some of those letters will just end up, we'll do Q the Winged Serpent half the time every year.
There's nothing wrong with Larry Cohen movie. Come on.
Oh, for sure. No, it's one of his best. I love that one.
That is a fantastic idea. And I think anybody who's married who's listening to this, we should all do that. Right. That's such a bonding experience, I'm sure, and it just works out really well. But Tony, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I had such a great time and learning about this because I'm learning more and more about distribution and what goes into it. And there's always been a respect for it because it's a lot of work. I mean, you guys you're the ones marching along, getting it done, getting everything out there. And I think a lot of people don't understand distribution, so it's better that they do, especially being film fans. So I applaud you and I thank you for what you're doing. And fantastic. And, I will promote any way I can over on the Seed Snobs. Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. So if you have anything that you need promoted, you come to me and I'll put it up.
Awesome. Thanks.
And anytime you want to join on any one of the shows, we'll love to have you. You're a fantastic guy. Thank you again. Cool.
Thanks for having me. And happy to come on anytime. And just one last kind of message for your listeners out there. Just, instead of buying Friday the 13th Blu-ray that you already have 20 copies of, run over to sovhorror.com. Try something different. Try something you haven't seen. I'd highly recommend movies like Metal Noir, The Spirit Gallery, Mr. Ice Cream Man. If you haven't seen these movies, I mean, I feel these would be cult classics if they were shot on film. If these were shot on film, these would be the movies you'd see Arrow video putting out, and Vinegar Syndrome, and all these cool niche labels that are around today. And, so yeah, take a chance, try something different, and you might be surprised. Absolutely. That's a great message too. So everybody, yes, go out there, go to sovhorror.com right now. Go check out these movies. All right. And until next time, I'm of course Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. And thank you for joining in and listening. And until next time, take care.
Welcome back, video. Welcome back, video. Welcome back.
Of the Living Dead.
Welcome back, video creeps. What up, you guys?
What up?
Welcome to my channel.
Video Creep. Make sure you hit subscribe.
This one's gonna be a hard one. No pun intended.
Down the catwalk every day, and maybe someday we'll go all the way.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. A sequel was all but inevitable, really.